Let's start off by getting your reaction to a brilliant win for Manchester City in their opening match of the new Premier League season. Pep Guardiola's side secured a 4-0 victory over Wolves at Molineux last weekend, thanks to two goals from Erling Haaland and strikes from summer signings Tijjani Reijnders and Ryan Cherki. There were so many positives to take away from that result and performance from Man City, weren't there, Stephen? How impressed were you how impressed were you with Guardiola's side overall, and what stood out for you in particular?
I really enjoyed it, mate. I thought it was an awful lot of fun. Look, it wasn't perfect, as Guardiola himself alluded to. There was sort of control issues in the second half, a little bit too open, and there was about a spell of about 10, 15 minutes in the first half as well where Wolves found their footing in the game. It was sort of always going to happen. That game meant a lot to Wolves for many reasons, very emotional reasons. Start of the season, of course, the tribute to Jota as well. And they had a lot to play for, personal reasons, emotional reasons. So you could tell that there was the ground. The fans were up for it and everyone was up for it. So it was never going to be easy. And given the fact that City made, you look at the lineup, multiple changes compared to where we were, even just a year ago. I've not even done that actually. I've not compared the two sides, but I'd be amazed to see how similar, if they are that similar at all. Um, Premier League debutants all over the City side, in James Trafford for Manchester City, in Norwich Premier League debutant, Reinders as well. Of course, Shirky came on. Oscar Bobb's not really played that much for a year as well. So there was a lot of new faces in this City side. What felt like new faces anyway, even if some have got experience in this league, and a very new Manchester City side. And we were chatting a little bit before we started recording this, and I said what I'd missed was that feeling of City having just too much quality for a side to overwhelm them. Because at times last season, City was very prosaic, they were very predictable, they were quite boring, and they got the game won often through little bits of individual quality. But it usually felt sort of forced because it was a toil. Like they didn't have the spark maybe that they needed or the dynamism. But this game, City was sort of irrepressible and they wanted to go through the gears. And all four goals, you look at them, they're all such high quality goals. They really truly are. The first goal comes from a moment of genius from Tijjani Reijnders, drifting past people, playing an inch perfect, incredibly difficult pass to make over to Rico Lewis. He cuts it back for Haaland. Second goal, City pounced like animals on Wolves. Like Wolves, I guess, on Wolves, counted so well, and Reinders, the finish is of really high quality. The third goal as well, it's just beautiful football from Trafford past to Reinders. Reinders is run to Bob, back to him, back to Haaland, and the fourth goal was Shirky, a long ranger. There are some really good goals, and basically, it sort of reminded me of when City went from 16-17 to 17-18, when they changed a lot of the side up, and there was an in sort of injection of dynamism and skill and hunger, and that's what I saw. Lots of work to do, but I saw a City side full of players who could run, and I think they ran. As of Sunday, I don't know about the Sunday's games. They ran more than any other team in the league, so they were running harder. Of course, even still controlling possession, scoring brilliant goals with new players at the heart of it. I mean, as a City fan, I've got a billion reasons to be positive, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, exactly. So it was really impressive overall from City, and of course, sort of the main man that's grabbed the headlines is Tijjani Reijnders. He become the first Man City player since Sergio Aguero back in 2011 to both score and assist on his Premier League debut. His all-round performance, for a debutant in the Premier League, the strongest league in the world, was almost perfect, really, wasn't it? And Guardiola said after the match that City knew he was an exceptional player at Milan and for the Dutch national team, and City know that he's a top signing for the coming years for City. And from the glimpses that we've seen already, both in pre-season and this opening game against Wolves, you can see why, can't you? He could well be a real star for City in the future.
Yeah, Tijjani Reijnders looks special. You see with players every now and then that they have a certain X factor to their game, and on your debut, in the Premier League, if you just keep it comfortable, don't give the ball away, do the simple things right. Everyone's going to give you an awful lot of plaudits just for being there, rising to the level. He didn't do that. He did what Aguero did when he made his debut many years ago as a substitute against Swansea, which still feels like yesterday, but it really wasn't. He took the game by the scruff of the neck. He was absolutely electric. I remember Gabriel Jesus doing similar actually when he was introduced to the Premier League. But Reinders was brilliant. He did everything you need him to do. He got the ball from the centre backs, dropping down to a six. He was bursting forward past Haaland at times, trying to get on the end of chances. And it wasn't just about that. He had this energy, this dynamism. The technical ability on show is ridiculous. That a little bit of skill for the first goal where he decides just to inject some creativity to decide. He decides to up the tempo, gets the ball from near the halfway line on the left, drifts infield, darts past a couple of Wolves players. The quality of that pass, the dink pass over the top to Rico Lewis, is absurdly high. That's incredibly difficult to do. And that essentially, from nothing, from Wolves being pretty set in position, creates a goal, and he did that. Then the second goal, of course, is him again with a brilliant finish. Now Oscar Bob does really well, don't get me wrong, but Tijjani Reijnders actually triggered that press, which Bob then swept up. So he started the press, Bob got the ball, and then he finished the chance with his weaker foot from the 18-yard line. And it's not like it was a one-on-one; it was genuinely a difficult chance into the bottom corner. Then the third goal, once again, he sort of instigates that entirely and gets the assist this time directly, where he picks the ball up from Trafford. A beautiful touch to turn away from his defender, and then he has the pace as well to actually power away from him. And bear in mind, this is his Premier League debut, and it's like at this point where, we're an hour into the game and he could be flagging. Not at all. He bursts away from the defender, has the, the intelligence and the vision to do a 1-2 with Oscar Bob, and then the cutback is absolutely perfect for Haaland. It's just beautiful stuff. Yeah, basically, Tijjani Reijnders won Manchester City that game with moments of unquestionable quality. And last season, for me, watching City, there wasn't much of that. Kevin De Bruyne showed glimpses of it, but I remember chatting with you saying how, as good as he didn't feel like he was a genius anymore. He felt like a very good attacking midfielder because the very best De Bruyne or the very best of, say, Rodri or even Phil Foden season 4, they just did things that others couldn't stop. And we lacked that last year as a side. Reinders showed that quality that he has that makes him so unpredictable and makes him a game changer. And when you sign a player that's a game changer, I think City might have signed a couple actually, 2 or 3, then you've got a chance just to win points in games that could be difficult. And Reinders showed he is quite a special footballer. Actually, he's arrived at a very good point of his career where this is a big move for him. AC Milan, an historic club, but they haven't been a force in Serie A or European football as a major force for a while now. So this is a step up for Reinders, and you can tell he wants to be here. You can tell there's a slot for this team for him. You can tell Guardiola's going to build the team around him, and the direction the attack's going to go more direct, more incisive. It's been built around Reinders too. So this guy's going to be a key player, and I think he's going to have a massive impact on the Premier League and world football.
Yeah, I agree. I think as well you mentioned there about Kevin De Bruyne. I think there's a lot of questions over the weekend about can Reinders sort of replace De Bruyne. Of course, they're not quite the same player, but do you think that that's possible that Reinders can fill that void that De Bruyne has left now?
Yeah, it's like this same but different, different but same. It's one of those things where like he's not going to be Kevin De Bruyne, and you look traditionally towards Ryan Shirky, but the impact De Bruyne had is like moments of magic to win you a game. Can Reinders do that? Well, he's already showed a lot of signs of that already in the glimpses of football that we've got. I got him down to be second leading goal scorer for City after Haaland. You can't do top goal scorer other than Haaland. You have to do an after Haaland category. And I think Reinders is going to get pushing 20 goals because he seems to have this incredible hunger for goals. Like Frank Lampard-esque kind of runs. But then also creativity as well. We could be looking at a guy here who gets 15 to 20 goals and 10 to 15 assists, and that's De Bruyne numbers essentially. De Bruyne has been getting around that stats for a while, and look, they'll be different kind of assists. They won't necessarily be the De Bruyne. Who knows? He might have it in his locker, but I'm not expecting these whipped crosses from the right channel, 5 times a game that just land on forwards' heads or reverse passes out of nowhere. Like the one against Stoke many years ago that everyone remembered. He could have that, but I'm not expecting that from him. But we never had that from when we went from Yaya to essentially De Bruyne. Yaya was different to De Bruyne, and when we went from Aguero to Haaland, Aguero was different from Haaland, company to Diaz. You can't really always replace these greats in the same way, but in a different way. And who knows, Reinders could be very effective, just in a very different way. And I don't think he'll quite reach Kevin De Bruyne levels because De Bruyne is one of one, but some of the parts between Shirky and Reinders, and I think you might be back where you were potentially, and that's what's quite exciting for me.
Yeah, exactly. So, and with that win against Wolves, four goals, clean sheet. How much of a statement was that win for City for their potential title rivals as well this season? Of course, it's very early in the season. We're literally one game in, but there are promising signs to suggest that City are getting closer to their best. I know Guardiola said that the second half wasn't that great from City, but and do you think they'll be truly tested though in these next few games as well? Now they've got Spurs, Brighton, United, and Arsenal, I think, in the coming weeks. So do you think that's when we can really see whether the City team are getting back to their best?
Come through that run on top of the table, City win the league. I already can. I genuinely, we might not do, but if we do, that means the signs of quality that were shown in this game are valid. And at that point, if City go through those games on the top of the table and say have won, if, what 4 or 5 of them, yeah, that run of 4 games,
Mm.
yeah, if we're winning 3 of the 4 there, maybe unbeaten, on top of the table, I think City will fear no one at that point. I mean, yeah, I think it's significant that City are top of the table after the first game week. I don't know what will happen between Everton and Leeds. I think it could be that Everton or Leeds end up top of the table on goal difference. But as it's likely that City will be top of the table afterwards. And it was the manner of the win as well. It's one of those things where I think seeing the new players lead it makes it even more exciting because you've got the stalwarts, you've got John Stones and Diaz, and you've got obviously Rodri's come back, but you've got in that side as well um, the experience and of people like Bernardo Silva in the side. But it's the fact that the new guys, and I'm including Oscar Bob in that because he feels very much like a new player. This is his turn now. Oscar Bob, you've of course, Nico Gonzalez as well. He got a start after much discussion about his future. And then, of course, you lead on Shirky and Reinders. And then Nate Nori was solid on his debut. James Trafford had a really nice debut as well. And then I look at the fact that he brought Kusanov, Nico O'Reilly, Akanji, Gundogan, and Nake all left on the bench, which felt very significant given the way that City are building towards a younger side. And I think that's what to me makes it exciting because it was built on the new guys, and we know how good the older ones are. We know how good Phil Foden, Oscar Vardiel, Rodri all are, and they weren't involved. So if they come back, and I presume they will come back playing well if the rest of the young lads have got the energy around them, it's quite telling, and it's quite a good omen for Manchester City fans. And look around, Arsenal. I don't think were particularly impressive in the victory of United. Obviously, United is always difficult for Arsenal. It just is, even when United are the worst and Arsenal are at their best. But it wasn't a convincing performance. There were signs of defensive frailty for Liverpool as well against Bournemouth. They won, of course, um, and they'll be happy about that. But Verts had a reasonably quiet debut. It wasn't bad, but it was a quiet one. Goals given up on the when they were doing pretty well at one point. And look around as well in Chelsea. They flattered to deceive against Crystal Palace. It's just the first game, but I guess what I'm trying to get at, if you asked all the managers who'd be the happiest out of the traditional bigger sides, I think Guardiola would be happiest this weekend. And given where we come from, I think that has to mean something. It could all come tumbling down in front of us. It could be that a rejuvenate Spurs under Thomas Frank give us a hard time next season next week at the Etihad. Brighton away is always going to be tricky, and then the first derby could be a chastening experience. It could be that that's sort of a leveler for us and expectations um, change. But I don't know. I think Guardiola will be happy, and I think the signs of all the ideas they put into place are there. And I think the performance and where we're sat on the table after the first game week is vindicated.